Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here today with Batya. Batya is back by popular demand, one of our most popular guests on the Weekly Energy Boost. And as we do every week, we are here to share with you the most practical and powerful tools to help you navigate the coming 7 days. We are going to do that by sharing what we've learned and what we've experienced and what the Kabbalists teach through the wisdom of the Zohar and other writings, so that you not only have the best week you could possibly have, but so that you can take those concepts and those practices into your life to use any day, any week, any month, any year. And today, this week, is an especially powerful week on the Kabbalistic calendar. We have different influences that are making this a very uplifting week, a week with potential, probably more than most weeks of the year, potential opportunities for elevation, for awakening, for realizations, and for taking ourselves to the next level, at least first in consciousness and mindset in the way that we think. And then, of course, as long as we stick with it, that's going to translate into shifts in our feelings, our emotional state, our mental state, our words, our actions, and then, of course, the reality around us. So this week, Batya and I are also excited to share, let's go through those three influences. The weekly energy, which is always what we base our topics on, is really about elevating, getting to the next level, and we'll talk about how to do that in a second. It's also important to mention that on Tuesday, we are starting the month of Gemini on the Kabbalistic calendar, the month of Sivan, which is known for being a light and relatively easy energy month, according to the Kabbalists, especially in contrast with what we're coming. This is the third influence is that this is the final week of the Omer. We've been talking about that every week for this will be the 7th week we've been talking about it. And we'll share what that means as well. But the idea is that we're rounding a corner on a period that has been full of heaviness. And I think every single person that I spoke to in the last few weeks has commented on how intense this time has been, how it feels like we're on a hamster wheel, how it's hard to breathe, how it's just one thing after another. And we've spoken about why that is and how that can serve us. Now, as we're rounding the corner and putting that in the rearview mirror, we want to discuss what is the unique opportunity that we have now that's coming to a close, and we have a new chapter that we're opening this week. So, Batya,
yes,
thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for ripping me out of bed this morning.
My pleasure. That's my favorite thing to do. We hear a lot about in the world, not just in Kabbalah, but people. We're definitely in a much more spiritual period of world history than previously. And I know for me, people even send me videos all the time. I think I looked at one this morning where someone was talking about I don't think she used the word awakening, but she was talking about parallel universes and how we're shifting into it seems like everybody is talking about removing the veil, seeing the reality, seeing the truth. And Kabbalah has been talking about that for thousands of years.
Yes.
So what do we have to say about awakening, creating awakenings, etc.?
My first question to you is how do you define awakening?
That's a great question. So the word that the Kabbalists use is hit'orerut. It really means waking up. And there's a lot of language in the wisdom of Kabbalah that talks about, or that refers to us as most of the time being asleep. Mm-hmm. I would say the more modern way to understand that is we're unconscious, right? If we're not conscious, we go through days and weeks and months. Every day is basically carbon copy of remember carbon copies? Mm-hmm. A carbon copy of the day before. I realize people might not understand. I know, right, people might not understand even what that reference is. Mm-hmm. So
it's the CC on your email.
It's the screenshot.
It's the screenshot.
Every day is a screenshot of the day before.
Right.
That's really the appropriate one. And we're not, the Kabbalists teach that if you're not consciously choosing, if you're not proactive, you're unconsciously reactive. It's
Basically what you're saying is that in order to wake up, you have to know you're sleeping.
exactly.
So how do we know when we're sleeping? Right? Because if you ask a lot of people, they'd say, what are you talking about? I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I do my exercise. I go to the gym. I meditate. I'm on this. I've got my goals. I've got my success. I've got my marriage. I've got my children. I'm awake, baby. I've got...
You're woke.
Oh God. Let's not
Sorry,
go
I
there.
shouldn't have said that.
Anyway, isn't that person awake? Is that what you mean when you say awake? Is that what we mean when we say
we don't mean
we're
active. You can be active and unconscious.
Right. Exactly. So it's a very personal experience. In some areas we could be more aware, have more self-awareness about certain aspects of our lives, and in other areas of our life we have completely no clue. So when, you'll know that happens to you when someone gives you feedback about yourself and you're going, what? Me? No, it's them. Or if you're triggered, here's some signs that you're not awake. How about you want to start with that?
That's a great way to start.
Okay, let's start with that. Signs we're not awake, and I say we because it's not something that's a static condition. It's something that's a very fluid condition at this point in our evolution, let's say, for most of the collective consciousness, let's say. We'll have these little popcorn moments. We wake, like I had a popcorn moment, by the way. I just want to share with you, it was yesterday. I had this real epiphany. I said to myself, if I had all the money in the world, right? I had more money that I wouldn't know what to do with. And I allowed myself to be in that state of consciousness. What does it feel like to have more money than I know what to do with? What would I do with my life? And I realized I would be doing exactly what I'm doing now. Maybe I take a couple of more vacations. But besides that, like in any given day, I love what I do. It gives me tremendous joy and satisfaction. Really, how much of it would I really actually change if I had the complete free will to do what I'm doing? I would just do what I'm doing with a lot more happiness is really what I realized. And then I asked myself, so what's stopping me from being that happy now? And the answer is nothing. It's nothing. I was like, oh my God, I'm so successful. I'm doing what I love to do with my time. Time is something that on planet Earth, we're all on a meter. I don't know if you realize this or not, but this is something you can wake up about. All on a meter. We came into the world through one door and we're leaving through that other door. So we're here temporarily. Every single one of us is here temporarily. What are we going to do with our time? How are we going to spend it? Because you can't save time. You can either spend it wisely or spend it foolishly, but you can't hoard time the way we could hoard food in our cupboard, or the way we could hoard money in our bank account, or the way we could hoard friends or whatever. We really cannot hoard time. It slips through our fingers whether we like it or not. And so how are we spending our time? So that's a really good point for those of you who are listening. And you think to yourself, am I sleeping? Am I awake? Because my opponent force, I'm sure we talked about this before, that dark side of us, the ego side, is like, of course I'm awake. What is she talking about? We don't need to listen to this broadcast. We're already awake. Then you know you're sleeping, by the way, for sure. But, it's a good place to start with yourself. If I had all the money in the world, ask yourself this question right now. If I had all the money in the world, if I had all the resources, if I did not have to work not one day in my life, how would I spend my time? What would I be doing? And then, if you're really honest with yourself about that, then compare that to what you're doing now. Are you in a relationship you're happy with? Are you in a marriage you're happy with? Are you happy with the way you are with your loved ones? Maybe you love them, but you're not, there are things that could be improved in that relationship. Are you doing what you love to do, or are you afraid to make that move? Did you chain yourself to the ball and chain of security, that you can't make those changes because of these outside reasons and influences, and then you stay stuck. And when we're not honest with ourselves, when we're not in alignment with our true selves, this is where we really fall into a deep slumber, because the pain of waking up to that can be excruciating if we are resisting it and we're not open to the conversation.
So how can we...
What do you think about that?
It's so true, and it's so connected to something we talked about last week, that in our lives, that wake up, we didn't use the word wake up, but that's really what we were talking about. The wake up will happen in the areas of our life where we're not in alignment.
That's right. And actually, that's actually not completely true. Let's think about this. A person has to have a merit to have that happen. If a person doesn't have the merit, they could go through life and they'll never not be triggered by anything. That's the worst. It says in the Zohar, if I can quote a couple of things from the Zohar, it says that a person is given gifts. A person can be given any or all of the following: the gift of looks, being good looking and attractive, the gift of speech, being able to persuade people, the gift of children, the gift of money. If the person uses their gifts for the sake of sharing, meaning that, people are attracted to me, what am I doing with that energy? Am I just going to manipulate them because I am attractive, because I am charismatic? Or am I going to take their attention to me and redirect it to something like, take Kabbalah One, for example? Did you know that Elisheva just started a Kabbalah One course on Kabbalah.com?
If they've been listening for the last few weeks, they know.
Okay, great. So, but you're my buddy, and I want to plug your class as much as I can. Not for you, for them, because it's a merit to take a class with Elisheva. She's amazing. And not because she's sitting here and invited me, but because it's true. And if you know me, I don't kiss up anyway. So that's a real compliment. Anyway, where was I? I got off track there.
You have to have a merit.
Oh, merit, yes. You have to have a merit. So if you're good looking and people are attracted to you, and you use those looks for your own benefit, and you know who you are out there. I know you know who you are. And you use it to, to bulk up your ego about it and feel good, but you don't do anything with it. You don't do anything positive with it. That will become a curse. And that will be that wake-up call. If you are the person who has a way with words. Not everybody has a way with words. Not everybody's a great communicator. In fact, most people, the number one fear that most people have is public speaking. But if you're one of the lucky few who can persuade people with your words, and you persuade people for your own aggrandizement, for your own agenda, so that you create a win-lose situation, those words that talent, skill, gift that you have, that'll become a curse. Let's say you're a tremendous, wonderful architect, by the way, or you have some other skill. You're an artist. Whatever gifts you've been given, the gift of organization, organizing spaces for people, like, making shoes, you're a fashion designer, whatever it is you do, you make people look beautiful. Whatever that gift is, gift of money, you happen, there's no such thing as happen, but your tikkun, which a lot of people don't understand what tikkun means. So let me put it in more understandable terms. Your soul's individual education plan has certain marks, that you've got to reach, certain milestones, better said, that you came to the world to reach, certain spiritual tests that you came to overcome. We all do. And in those, when we're presented with those milestones, and those milestones are always connected to the gifts we have, and we pass the spiritual test, there's an awakening that comes with that. A sense of euphoria, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of happy for no reason, a sense of, wow, the clouds part and everything makes sense in the world. There's those moments of awakening in that way. So when we use our gifts in that way, they become truly gifts. if we use our money for the sake of sharing, to help other people rather than hoard it, that becomes a gift. That comes back to us in blessings and good health and relationships and, family harmony, etc. But when we don't, then it's going to come back to us because we live in a world of perfect cause and effect. Will it come back to you in your time and the way you want it to? No, absolutely not. It always comes back to us. It's a game, so we never know when it's going to come back to us and hit us right in the face and out of nowhere, and it's going to feel like I'm a victim of circumstance. But if you really want to have a wake-up in your life, the first place to start is with oneself. It's being 100% accountable. Everything that's showing up in my life, even if it doesn't make any sense, it's painful, it's challenging. Okay, what could my soul have scheduled for me? What experience did I make a contract that's in my soul individual education plan? For all you educators out there, you're probably laughing because in the education system, when children need a little extra help and support, they have a contract they make with the school, with themselves, with the teacher, and it's called an individual an IEP, an individual education plan. I love that concept because all of us are on IEP. We're on a soul IEP. We all have that. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're beating yourself up because you're not the person you want to be, please stop it. It doesn't help you. It only delays your progress. Instead, with all the energy, precious energy you are using to beat yourself up, to feel I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, why can't I make that happen? Why can't I stop it. Just shift that consciousness as best you can. This is part of the awakening consciousness is I choose. Yeah, I'm beating myself up. You know what? I choose to put the stick down, and I'm going to choose to now look at myself through the eyes of compassion. Through the eyes of compassion, because you can't be more compassionate to someone else truly than you are to yourself. How we treat ourselves is really how we treat the world and how the world eventually will treat us. And if we're not conscious and we're not accountable for it, then we're going to feel like a victim of circumstance. And if that feeling of powerlessness, that feeling of frustration, and then that feeling of anxiety and stress. And if there's one thing I can tell you that most people have in common these days with what's going on in the world, is so many people are feeling so much stress and so much anxiety. And it's like, I'm powerless to do anything about it. This is going on. This law just got passed. This thing is happening in my kid's school. And, the anxiety and the stress that goes with a sense of powerlessness. And we think, and we're convinced that we're powerless, and it's not true. You change the world. It's a Kabbalistic precept. We change the world when we change ourselves. That's the place to start. Any comments?
Well, you started sharing a moment ago saying that you don't think that what I said was necessarily true, but it was. I said exactly the same thing that you were saying, that if you're attached to your looks or to your wealth or to your any gift that you've been given, that's usually where the wake-up call will happen, that attachment.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, let me have some more coffee. 1 second. Let me get back to you there.
So the universe is set up to first gently awaken us, a gentle nudge, a quiet whisper, like Batya said, an epiphany. Somebody says something to us. By the way,
it says that in the Zohar too.
Right. Many times the things that we witness on TV happening in the news, we hear about a friend that goes through something. Those are also designed to awaken us. We shouldn't need to be hit personally. This is from the universe's point of view. The peripheral wakings up alert systems should be enough to cause us to ask the right questions. When I say right questions, meaning something difficult happens to someone else. I can use that as a springboard for growth and elevation and expansion and awakening, or I can say, oh, such a shame, and move on with my life.
It says in the Zohar that there's another section that talks about when it says the Creator rebukes the person. You familiar with that section? Mm-hmm. Yes, of course you are. So the Creator rebukes the person, meaning like when we're off the path, let's say, whatever that means for us, when we're out of alignment with our soul's desires, We're not following our SIEP. I'm going to just keep using that metaphor because I love it so much. Anyway, we'll get a hint. We'll get a dream. We'll get a nudge, like kind of like in the back of my mind. You know that little scratch, that little itch. You know you said something, you just said something, or you just did something. Going, oh, I don't feel 100% in alignment with that. But I opened my mouth. My ego's intact. So I'm just going to keep going with that, and then I'll smear it with some justification over that and keep on that trajectory. So there's that. And then when we don't, like, just drop it. That's simply all you can do. And I encourage you, and try it. It's amazing when you just, like, go against the ego and you say, oh, you know what? I'm actually wrong. I really didn't mean that, or, that's not true. Here's what's my truth. But let's say a person ignores the little nudge, the little voice in the head, or you feel it somewhere in your body, and then the person continues doing that same out of alignment thinking and doing, and so that voice will get a little louder. The rebuke will get a little louder, and it'll start to come to the person, and it'll come through the loved ones, the family, the friends, the close circle, and they'll give that person feedback. And if the person hears the feedback and says, oh, wow, thank you, it's actually true. I'm feeling it internally. I'm going to drop whatever I was doing and just move on. It's really that simple. And make that change. Great. Creative says and Zoe, great. We're all back in alignment. Everything's good. But if the person refuses to hear, refuses to wake up, then that voice gets louder. Then it starts to affect that person's finances and their children. And if the person still doesn't get the hint, then it becomes something that's publicly known about that person. And then there's like this public embarrassment about whatever it is, that needs to change about them. And then if they still don't listen, it says the Creator does the worst thing possible. It says the Creator leaves them alone. They don't hear the voice anymore. They're completely disconnected. And that, my friends, is a very deep slumber. We never want to get to that point. We definitely need that uncomfortable, what you think is annoying, that uncomfortable voice in your head, or that feeling that you should be doing this or you could be doing that. Pay attention to it. It's there to help us. It's here to help us change. And when we follow it and we just drop the drama, drop the justification, I'm telling you, it's something I'm not just saying. It's something that I practice myself. And when I catch myself in sleep, being out of alignment, and I know when I am, and I just stop, and some things are easier than others. What I'm saying is simple, but I didn't say it was easy. You know that if you're hearing what I'm saying, and you're considering doing this, and you feel a tremendous pushback around this, then you need to know that you are sitting on a treasure of light and energy and blessings, and that I encourage you to find the courage and get support to make that change, say your truth, do whatever you have to do to be back in alignment. That's the path, one of the paths to awakening.
Do you know what I love about what you just said? This Saturday night it begins a window in time that we call Shavuot, right? This one of the most elevated windows in time of the year, one of the most elevated days of the year, and specifically Saturday night. One of the things that we do is we stay up all night. We want to make sure every night of
Saturday night.
This year it's Saturday night, but every night of the year, the most positive time is from midnight to dawn. Mm-hmm. So on certain nights, like this coming Saturday night, we stay awake so we don't even miss that energy, that we make that maximum connection.
Yes.
But one of the things that it says about...
We literally stay awake.
That's funny.
Yes. We literally stay awake.
We literally
stay awake.
And we poke each other to keep one another awake.
Yes.
Because there's advantage to remaining awake, spiritual benefits to remaining awake until dawn. What I love is when we learn about what happened 3,500 years ago on that night, is one of the ways that it's described is that the blind could see, the deaf could hear, you could see the voices, right? There was a complete opening up of the senses and of the experience of the world, that we were no longer, we no longer had those dividers, those, our teacher Rav Berg used to say that the Kabbalist could hold a sugar cube in his hands and sweeten the tea in his mouth without having to taste the tea with his mouth.
Because
or her
all the
mouth.
senses are operating as one.
Right. So that's one of the beautiful opportunities of this week. In a way, the first 6 the last 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks of the Yomer, but the last 6 weeks, we've all kind of been asleep. There is a degree of almost like a fog that surrounds us that distorts our perception of reality in this time, which is why you felt the urge to end things or to start things or to walk away from things or to do, it's like nothing is as it seems. And now we're coming into this period where the fog is lifting, and not only the fog is lifting, but we have the opportunity to experience an even intensified perception of the true reality. This is a week where our eyes can be opened. We can see so much more clearly. We can hear those voices that Batya was talking about. We can sense our spidey sense is going to be heightened. And it's really ours for the taking. I want to bring it up specifically so that we're asking for it. So that, you may be experiencing a challenge in a particular area of life. Everybody is. That's part of the awakening process. And the goal this week is to really say, light, creator, universe, whatever you want to call it, help me see where I can grow, how I can change. Help me see the purpose of the challenge in front of me. I know it's happening for me. Where is it for me? What is it leading me towards? What's the intention behind it? How can I use it as a stepping stone to my next level? And the answer is not always going to it's not always going to be comfortable. That's that nagging voice that tells you this is what you should do. I used this example in a class I gave last year. I don't think I shared it on the podcast, but I think it's really relevant to what you were saying as well. Prior to 2020, let's call it like that. Prior to 2020, I lived a very urgent and rushed lifestyle.
Right? Who didn't?
I'm sure it's a very relatable statement.
Yes.
I left the house to take my kids to school. I left it in whatever condition it was in for that morning. I came home at 5:00 in the afternoon with them. Sometimes I was teaching later that evening. Sometimes the bottom line is it was very hectic. And for the last couple years, I would say probably starting in 2017, I had this voice that was kind of telling me, it's not working. You've got to change something up. The routine at home isn't healthy. It's very reactive. You wait until the last minute to deal with things. You wait until the house is a mess to clean it. You wait until the dishes are yay high in order to wash them. It was really, I was leaving everything that was going on at home to the last second or till it was completely unbearable. And I had that voice. And of course, then I would have the voice that comes with the plumber needs to come because the sink is clogged because you're not washing dishes the way you're supposed to, or the different appliances that were breaking down, or the neighbors complaining about this. It was just super hectic. Obviously, my kids, who we talk about all the time, that kids need structure, they need boundaries, they need consistency. And it was definitely my work life, by the way, immaculate. My desk, my calendar from 9 to 5, everything spick and span.
On the outside.
Of course, on the outside. But I made sure to cross all my T's and dot all my I's professionally. But at home, things were super messy. And I don't even mean physically messy, just all over the place. So 2020 happened. And I would say it took me about until May. So let's say the lockdown began around March. Around May, I pretty much collapsed completely because I didn't make any changes at home. I just brought work home with me and school home with me. And I was, typing with one hand, stirring with another, sweeping with my foot, and miserable and angry and passive aggressive and hostile and nerves frazzled and underfed and underslept and, just like a wreck. And of course I had a degree of a breakdown, and not just sort of collapse, let's call it.
Should have gotten a Roomba.
I think about that almost every week.
Yeah, I was thinking that
That
too.
might be the solution to all my
go.
problems. I did get a new vacuum, just not a Roomba. And that's not a paid promotion either. But what I realized once I couldn't take it any longer is that the universe is so compassionate and so merciful and had been telling me all along, you need to fix this. You need to get your act together. Just because you look okay on the outside doesn't mean you're okay.
Right.
And I'm lucky enough to live in a home and have friends and family around me to support me through rebuilding what I had crumbled under to a healthy and proactive and conscious place. But I think it's important to share that, not only so that you see, yes, we're all works in progress. Some of us need more work than others. But the fact is that I can clearly see, and I could clearly see while it was happening as well, the signs and signals from the world around me telling me it cannot continue. It cannot continue.
See clearly now.
So this is the week where the rain is gone. So friends, take advantage of it. The universe, the creator is a friendly force.
Yes.
It's not just when you see something in your life crumbling or collapsing or teetering, it's not a punishment. It's a blessing. It's a gift. It's an invitation to wake up and make changes.
This is why the study of Kabbalah is so crucial to today's time, because stuff is going to happen. Stuff happens. And I hope you're not the kind of person who says, oh, I wish my problems would go away, because your problems are actually diamonds just wrapped in garbage at the moment, but they're still diamonds. And when you understand how the system works, then whatever stuff is happening to you, you have two choices. And this is where the world is going today, by the way. Excuse me. And this is where the world is going today, is that we have a choice. Are we going to just keep looking and responding to the garbage, or are we going to unwrap the gift wrap and access the diamonds? You know, the pandemic, for some people, crushed them, destroyed them. I personally died. As we know, I got COVID and I died, and unfortunately, they sent me back. So I got work to do, obviously. Didn't finish my individual education plan. Anyway, so we all, I think we all got a wake-up call in that way. And one of the things that and I've heard so many stories, you know, the media was painting one narrative, and then I've heard individually from so many people that it was the best thing that happened to them. We all slowed down. We all took a very close look. We weren't running on the gerbil wheel. We had a time to stay, and it's almost like it's like the Creator gave us all a time out. You know, check in with yourself. What are your priorities? What are really important? Why are you running around like a maniac as if that was the purpose of life? It's not the purpose of life, you know? So it was depending on where you are in your process, you could see it as the worst thing that happened. And for a lot of people, made a lot of more money, and they changed the way they do business. They changed the way they do relationships. I personally experienced a complete, I would say, transformation, awakening, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, awakening is not something like a light switch. It's either on or off. There are levels. It's important to understand there are lots of levels of awakening. And just when you think you know, and I find this myself when I study Kabbalah and the deeper texts, and I can read the same thing I've read for 10 years in a row, and then I read it again, and all of a sudden it's like the bottom drops out, and I go, whew. And there's like a deeper wonder or awakening or an epiphany around that. I'm sure you've had that experience.
That's been one of the best parts of these last couple of years for me, actually.
Yeah.
Is going back to the basics.
Back to the basics.
And relearning all of that, all of the things that I thought I understood or I thought I was living by, and realizing there's so much more depth. To every single principle, every single teaching has so much more depth. I think our listeners also hear us as we unravel those concepts year after episode, taking it more deeply. And we've heard it before, right? Don't wait for the universe to wake you up.
We say
that all the time.
Right.
But it takes on a different meaning when you're in a different place.
And one of the things, can I share some of our preparation secrets with the public here?
Shh. Yes.
Okay. So Elishev
Turn up
and
the
I have a
volume.
rule that we don't talk about what we're going to talk about on in these episodes on the podcast. So we drive here together, but the rule is we don't talk about Bruno, and we don't talk about what we're going to talk about the podcast. So that, so we're authentic, and we're not just giving you some sort of a script here. And what were we talking? I just lost my train of thought. We were talking about something in the car.
We were talking about lots of things. Talking about creating habits. What were we talking about?
Oh, God, I just slipped my mind.
All right.
I have to have some more coffee.
To be continued. To be continued.
Oh, my God.
Well,
What were we just saying? Wait a second. What was the point you just made?
that the universe is a friendly force, and this is a great time to wake up, and I'm summing up the episode now.
Okay. Well, we talked about that actually in our own way, in our own personal lives.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. Oh, we talked about, yes, what you just said about you think you know. When you think you know something, for sure you don't know it. Right? You think you know something. Rav Berg, our teacher, always used to say about the teaching. If you think you know, you didn't get it. If you think you don't know, you got it. Because there's always that next level and that next level and the next level of awakening. And it's glorious and it's wonderful and it's exciting. So when we come to studies, we talked about Kabbalah 1, that Elishev has just began a Kabbalah 1. I'm starting to teach Kabbalah 2, Tuesday, June 1st. I'll give myself a shameless plug. Why not? And what's really exciting me is the opportunity to go back to the basics. And that's what we were talking about in the car, about like certain... you can't get enough of the basics. You can't get enough when you get excited and when you're self-motivated. We were talking about people who need an outside stimulation, and that's a person who really doesn't have a real desire to learn, as opposed to internal motivation. And ask yourself, am I externally motivated? Do I have to wait for a text or an email or someone to tell me to do something? Or am I internally driven? Whatever you're internally driven to do, that is your real vessel. That's what the light is going to fill for you. But if you have to wait for some outside stimulation, someone to call you, tell you, invite you, then you know you're not being the procreator of your life. And I encourage you that starting this week, starting right now, hearing this, make a choice. It's up to you to be the procreator of your life, to decide to be internally motivated. How much more light do I want to reveal? How much happier do I want to be? How much more magnanimous can my life be? And then when you're driven from that point, then everything becomes an exciting adventure. And I wish that for you, that your life and therefore all of us will be on this planet working together to make this planet a beautiful, wondrous, miraculous place it's meant to be for all of humanity.
Amen, sister. I just want to point out, we'll stop talking in a second, but, this Tuesday is a really powerful window in time. It's the new moon of Gemini.
Yes.
We always share with our listeners to really make the effort to be our best selves that day. That creates a mold, an imprint that will last the entire month. We're planting a seed, genetically modifying that seed to be an even better month.
In a good way.
In a good way, absolutely. Putting in the energy and effort to have a really miraculous month. Then, of course, on Saturday night, as we mentioned, there's another Saturday night, and Sunday is a very powerful window in time. If you're interested in understanding more about how we make that connection all night, you're more than welcome to go to Kabbalah.com and look at the live stream sections. We will be streaming from all of our locations that night into the wee hours of the morning, in whatever area of the world you are. And next week, we are talking about, we're building on this idea of awakening. We're going to be talking about the path to inner peace. But what I wanted to say before that, just as a positive note to leave all of our listeners on, is that when you wake up to something and you're inspired to make changes, to navigate your life in a different way, to be more in alignment, as Batya was saying, it doesn't always rub people the right way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's really hard to make changes when you're waiting for cues from other people to tell you if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. One of the hardest things about this wisdom is that you really need to be honest with yourself. And that's not easy for everybody. If we're honest with ourselves, we actually use our environment as the barometer of, am I okay, am I not okay? And this is also a really good time when shifting into more alignment with yourself means not needing to be in alignment with the acceptance from the outside world.
This is such an important topic. Can we talk about this next week?
Absolutely, because it is one of the keys to inner peace.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is really, really a life-changing point you're making. And we really should give it the time it deserves to explore that, unpack that.
Let's
okay?
do that.
So can I come back next week?
You can.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, as always, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere podcasts are found. We have a website called weeklyenergyboost.com where you can find out more about us, catch up on old episodes, and see other stuff that we're interested in that we think can benefit our listeners. If you have questions for us, you can email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. Have a fabulous week, and we'll see you next time on the Weekly Energy Boost.